Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Rachel, and today we're doing my October wrap-up. I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in October, what I thought of them, what I rated them. I did end up reading 9 books in the month of October, and it was an interesting month. I think it was a below average reading month with the overall quality of books. I think I ended up feeling average or below average about most of the books I read this month, but when the books hit, they hit. In the month of October, I read a brand new all-time favorite, Bury Me With This Book, Tattoo It On My Body, one of the greatest stories I have ever had the pleasure of reading, and I'm so excited to talk about that. It's probably a book that like all of you have read, and I feel like I'm one of the last people to have not picked it up, but it was incredible. It was transformative. We will get into that soon. But first, let's get started with my first read for the month of October. So book number 1 for the month of October was In the Veins of Drowning by Kaylee Cassidy. This is an adult fantasy romance, and it's definitely more of a gothic atmospheric read, so it was a really good pick for October. In this, we are following a siren. She has been trapped on land. However, she ends up being basically magically bound to this king, and the two of them kind of set off on this adventure to save their kingdoms. And of course, because they're magically bond, they had a forced proximity romance. I was really excited to pick this book up, and I think the thing that I want to say that I liked the most about this book is the writing is really pretty. There are some amazing quotes. I definitely think if you are a fan of Rachel Gillig's Shepherd Kingdomology, you would like this book. I feel like it's kind of the same genre of fantasy. I ended up walking away from this giving it 3 stars, and I thought it was just okay. I think that I did put too high of expectations going into it because I've just seen so many glowing reviews, and while I do think that it's a good book, I just didn't fall so in love with it. I found the main character's like decision making to be just kind of all over the place, and I did find her to be a bit irritating. I also felt that the pacing of this book wasn't great, and I found myself getting bored throughout multiple parts of the book. So this was just an okay read for me. I'm not going to continue on with the series, but I think that I would pick up other books by this author if she comes out with something new, because I definitely enjoyed the writing. In the month of October, I did something very rare for me, and that is pick up a contemporary romance. One of my TBR prompt picks for the month of October was to read a contemporary romance, and thankfully my girl Elsie Silver had a new release, and that is Wildcard. This is the final book in the Rose Hill Quartet, and while I'm not a huge contemporary romance reader at this point, I do love Elsie Silver. I will always pick up an Elsie Silver book. I know that she has a new series starting next year, which I'm actually really excited for, and when I heard about the premise of Wildcard, I was intrigued because this book has a lovely trope, one that I think is so much fun and very taboo, which is ex-boyfriend's dad. So our female main character ends up having this meet cute while stranded at an airport with our male main character. They really hit it off, but you know, they kind of just go separate ways, and then they end up running into each other, I want to say like a year later, and they quickly realize that our female main character is dating the son of our male main character, and there's definitely still that attraction there. They don't actually like start exploring any type of romantic dynamic until she has broken up with the son, and it's been like a long period of time, but obviously it's like very taboo and it's very forbidden, and they don't really know if they should act on their feelings and what that is all going to look like. I thought this book was very fun. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like now that the series is over, I can definitely say that I enjoyed myself. I thought it was fun, but the Chestnut Springs series remains superior. I had just so many more standout moments with that series compared to Rose Hill, and while I do like these characters, they just aren't as memorable for me. I did think there were some very sweet moments in this book. Our female main character, her mental growth and kind of the journey that she went through, I thought was really well done. And while I do enjoy these two together, you know, for the fun of it all, I did feel like the male main character, the father in this book, I don't know, the way he kind of was towards his son in the end was a little bit off-putting. The son is definitely not like amazing, but by the end of it, I don't know, I didn't feel like he was so terrible, and I feel like they kind of really tried to villainize him in order to justify the relationship, and for me, it just felt weird, like the father-son dynamic. We were getting into a little bit of like maybe some toxic parenting here, which I guess, hey, ex-boyfriend's dad is probably always going to come a little bit with some toxic parental relationships, but this book was very surface level, very fun, 4 stars. In October, I also read Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. Can we take a moment for this cover? This is the UK cover. It is significantly better than the US cover. It is so gorgeous, and I don't understand why the covers are so different. I will insert a picture of the US cover. they're not even in the same lane. They're not like, I cannot believe how stunning this is. As soon as I saw this, I had to pick it up, and I was very, very excited to pick up Paladin's Grace. If you don't know what this is about, we are following our female main character, who is a perfumer, and then we are following our male main character, who is a very lost, kind of down on his luck paladin. Basically, he worshipped and kind of like was a warrior for a certain god, but the gods are gone, and now he doesn't have like his main purpose in his life, so he is living in this village and kind of just trying to figure out what he's going to do. There are other paladins as well who have similar circumstances, and I think this series is going to be following each of them, if I'm not mistaken. But our two main characters stumble upon each other and then end up witnessing something really intense, and he basically wants to act as a bodyguard for our female main character, and the romance blossoms from there. What I really liked about this book is the humor. I thought was really good, really, really cute. Also, the male main character is the greenest flag of all green flags. He is so wonderful. He is so supportive. He even like checks himself and kind of calls himself out when he is thinking too lustfully about our female main character. I don't know. He's just very, very sweet, very kind, has a very good heart. And I think the author really takes time to really develop his personality beyond just like being a love interest for our female main character. I ended up giving this book 3 stars though. It is good, and I think it's well written, and I can totally see why someone would love this. I'm just not the reader for it though, because this is definitely a cozy fantasy, and I am just not a cozy fantasy reader. I don't find it to be particularly engaging. I want like high stakes, war is looming, everything is bad, dagger to the throat type of fantasy. That is what I am interested in. Cozy fantasy, it's just not really my thing. I just don't find it to be particularly interesting. So I'm not going to continue on with the series, but once again, it's one of those things that like, this is not a bad book. If you like cozy fantasy, I absolutely think you should pick this up. I'm just not the reader for it. The next book that I read in the month of October was The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovalino. This was fantastic. I'm just gonna tell you guys right off the top, I loved this so much. It's not a perfect 5-star, but it's like a very, very high 4-star, 4.5. I think this is so unique. I thought it was such a breath of fresh air for fantasy romance, and oh my god, I love knight fantasies. Also, Paladin's Grace is a knight fantasy, and so was this, and we need more knight fantasy romances. I would like for that to become the new trend. I think this book did it the best though for me. It really stands on its own. So it's a friends to lovers fantasy romance, which is something that we never really see, and I feel like can be really hard to pull off in fantasy particularly, but I think V.L. Bovalino did it great with it. So our female main character is kind of like the hand to our male main character, and she helps him to perform magic, and that's kind of how this world exists. And the two have known each other forever. Like, they've been friends for such a long time, and we're only in our female main character's POV, but we can tell immediately she has such strong feelings for him, has for so long, doesn't want to ruin the friendship, doesn't want to ruin this like magical dynamic that they have between them. And of course, with war being on the horizon and all that they have to do, it's just like not a great time to bring that up, but those feelings are just always in the back of her mind. And even though we don't get our male character's POV, I think the author did a great job of communicating his desire for her as well. It wasn't as obvious because we needed to be kept in the dark for a bit, but I do think that you can feel the yearning from both sides of these characters, and I thought it was just so amazing. And then as far as the plot goes, it was really fun. Our two characters end up kind of having to set out on this quest with their friends, and their friends are wonderful. The found family is great. Our characters and their friends have to try to prevent magic from dying, from going away, from ceasing to exist. And there's a lot of secrets wrapped up in that, and a lot of motivations, and it just gets really, really, really crazy. This is a standalone, by the way. I did not think it was a standalone, so when it ended, I was just like, oh, okay, that was it. But this is the first book in a series of interconnected standalones, so we are going to be following other characters within this world, which I'm really looking forward to. I think this world is fascinating. I think there's so much more to uncover, and I really loved these characters, and I'm excited to hopefully we'll get glimpses of them in future books. I love this author's writing, and just the way that she represented this friends to lovers romance I thought was so well done, and I just cannot recommend it enough. Next up in October, I read Immortal Dark by Taijist Gurma. This is a vampire YA fantasy with a romance subplot. Absolutely perfect for October. We also have this like dark academia setting. Essentially, we are following our female main character. Her sister goes missing, and she ends up attending this academy all while trying to hunt down what happened to her sister. There's a lot of mystery surrounding it, and she also ends up having to live at this like estate with a vampire who has ties to her family. She really doesn't want to do this. They are very adversarial in the beginning, and the relationship between humans and vampires in this world is just so fascinating. But of course, they're gonna fall for one another as our main character tries to find her sister. So I ended up giving this book a 3-star rating. I loved, like I said, the dynamic between humans and vampires was really fascinating. I loved when our female main character was in class and like with the other students and learning about that. I thought that those scenes were fascinating, and just the mystery element. There is a murder that occurs during her hunt for her sister, and like all of that was so engaging, and I had fun with this book, but I'm not crazy about our 2 main characters. Our female main character was better than the male main character. Our female main character would present herself as like this very tough and everyone needs to watch out for me and I'm murderous and this and that. And I don't feel like we actually saw that. I feel like we were just told that. I completely can see her motivation for wanting to find her sister and for maybe having this feeling of vengeance and like, I need to find my sister and I'm gonna do anything to get it. But she would also kind of make these comments similar to like, people need to be afraid of me, and it just felt a little bit over the top and I wasn't like buying it very much. So that I think distracted from other aspects of her character that I really did like. But then our male main character, he is a multiple of hundreds of years old, and I thought that he acted like a 15-year-old teenage boy. And I know that this is a YA, but I believe our characters are like supposed to be around 18, 19. He was just really immature and just did not fit the vibe of like a multiple centuries old vampire, and he really threw me off. I found him kind of irritating. So wasn't super crazy about them, wasn't super crazy about their romance, but I did like a lot of elements of this book. I just wasn't super obsessed with the characters. In October, I also read The Bond That Burns by Briar Bolin. This is book 2 in this series. I don't know what it's called, the On Wings of Blood series. This is an adult fantasy romance that takes place at this like vampire academy. Our female main character in book 1 kind of drops into this world and finds out that she is this like long lost dragon rider, and dragon riders are a group of people that have been extinct for years and years. So when everyone finds out that our female main character is a dragon rider, they're all wanting to capture her in some way or take ownership of her in some way, and this leads our female main character to be kind of forced into an engagement with a big bad vampire of like the worst vampire house, and she doesn't really want anything to do with him, but they have this little enemies to lovers moment. And beyond that, there's also just like a lot of other things going on. There are different plot lines surrounding dragons being extinct, maybe, question mark, for years and years and years, and can we bring them back, and what can we do, and how does our female main character play into that? Also, she's got like this magical situation going on that I can't talk about, but like that's a main area of contention for her. And basically she's just trying to find her place in this world that seems to covet her powers but doesn't really like respect her as a person at all. And how is she going to navigate that and hopefully prevent all-out war between these vampire houses? So book 1, I gave a 3.5 star. Book 2, I also gave a 3.5 star. This is like a perfect 3.5 star series to me. It is not fantastic, particularly the writing and just like, I don't know, it's a little bit cheesy. It's a little bit of a cheesy series, but the romance dynamic also for me, I'm not like super crazy about the male main character. Although I will say he became much more interesting in this book because he kind of got his own plot line and has his own issue going on now, which I really liked. I think that he was kind of just there to be a little bit toxic throughout the series so far, which, you know, if you're gonna be toxic, I need you to be interesting. And I did not find him interesting for a while, but in this book, he got an interesting plotline, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I was kind of using this book as the book where I was going to decide, am I going to continue on with the series or not, because I'm not like super invested in it. And after reading the second book, I am going to continue on with it. I don't think I'm getting a 5-star from this series anytime soon, but I am curious enough to see where things are going to go and how they are going to end up. So I will be picking up the next book, and it's fun. It's not the greatest thing I've ever read, but it's definitely entertaining. In October, I also read The Wind Weaver by Julie Johnson. Finally, I have been meaning to read this book for so long, and I ended up really liking this. I gave this a 4-star rating. In this book, we are following a female main character who is half fae, and she is set to be executed, but ends up being kind of like rescued / kidnapped from her execution and taken on this journey by her kidnapper. She quickly learns that she could potentially be involved with a prophecy that could end up kind of like saving the world, and starts to explore that. And during this exploration, not only does she have this romance with her original captor, but another bombshell enters the villa. And I don't know if we're gonna have a love triangle. I don't know if this is going to be reverse harem. I don't know what's going to happen, but I am looking forward to seeing it. I found the characters to be really fun. I'm excited to see this plotline play out. I feel like we set up a lot of things for the plotline in this book. I'm hoping to see a little bit more of that explored and fleshed out in book 2. I'm really curious to see about the romance. I thought it was really fun, and I don't really know where things are going to go in that direction, so I'm looking forward to that. I thought that this was super entertaining, and I'm definitely invested in this series. All right, we are almost done here. I have 2 more books to talk about, and this first book is the worst book that I read this month, and then the next book that I read is going to be the best book that I read this month. So let's start with the book that I did not enjoy, unfortunately, Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. This is Stephanie Garber's adult debut, and I love the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. The ending was a little bit disappointing, but overall, I walk away from that trilogy with a lot of love for it. It's a trilogy I would love to reread someday. I think that Stephanie Garber's writing is so whimsical and fantastic, and Eva and Jax are just everything, and I'm just a big fan of hers. When I heard she was coming out with an adult debut, I was very, very excited. This is a huge departure from the other stories that she has written, though. This takes place in modern-day Los Angeles. We are following our female main character, Holland, I believe that's her name, and she takes this folklore 517 class at her university and becomes really fascinated by like myths and legends of old Hollywood. She also has this kind of like dark past of something really tragic happened with her parents, and she really wants to discover the truth. She thinks that what has been presented to the world, because they were like famous celebrities, that that's not entirely the whole story. During this quest to find out more about her parents and their demise, she also kind of gets set on this journey to search for the, is it like the Heart of Alchemy or the Alchemy of Hearts? Something like that. This object that is going to be helpful to her in her pursuit and quest, and also with like other things that are going on. The devil is also involved, or is he? Question mark. That's a bit of a gray area, and all that is great. I think that this is a very original story. I've never read anything like this, but I just didn't really like it, you guys. I found this story to be so all over the place and confusing, and like I did not understand people's motivations. I felt like it was really chaotic. The decision-making skills of our female main character, honestly, she did kind of remind me of the other female main characters that Stephanie Garber has written, which is like very naive and gullible and just goes along with whatever anyone tells her. Our female main character did that as well in this book, which was like a little bit disappointing. I felt like I could not at any point grasp onto what story was being told and like why we should care. I don't really know what Stephanie Garber was trying to do with this plot and with these different romance dynamics and these different characters who were like flipping motivations and whether they were good or bad constantly. And like, I get the story, and I also get making characters present one way and then be another and be kind of unreliable. I can like, on a zoomed out level, understand why someone would do that, but I don't think it was executed well. I really don't. And I just thought it was way, way too all over the place. I did not enjoy reading it. I was just like, this isn't really making a whole lot of sense to me, and I don't really understand what the point is. I didn't have a good time. So I will not be continuing on with this series, but Once Upon a Broken Heart is amazing and will always be famous to me. And Stephanie Garber is coming out with a novella featuring Eva and Jax, I think next year. So I will be very excited for that new release from her. Okay, so ending on a positive note here, we're going to be talking about my #1 favorite book that I read in October and one of my new favorite books of all time. Truly a masterpiece. And that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I cannot believe that this is the first time I've read this book. I cannot believe that I have never picked this book up before. Finally picked it up in October, and oh my god, it was incredible. I read it in one sitting, could not put it down. It was such a beautiful and devastating and tragic and just absolutely mesmerizing story. I cried in this book, particularly in like the middle section. If you've read it, I think that would evoke emotions from a lot of people. And I think that this book just leaves you with so much to think about. And I just am so blown away by how badass Mary Shelley was and how young she was when she wrote this. And just like, oh my god, her brain is amazing. This story is just so special to me. Frankenstein's monster, I just, oh my god, love forever. Also the way that the story was told, I just really, really enjoyed. I just absolutely loved this book and the meanings and themes that were explored, and I am so excited for the Guillermo del Toro adaptation of Frankenstein, which is coming out very, very soon. I just cannot recommend enough picking up Frankenstein, even if you were not a classics person, even if you were like, oh, it's gonna be too complicated. It really was not. I think that the barrier to entry is like so easy, and I just got right into the story. I did also listen to the audiobook, and it was so good and so well done. And I think that it's a very, very special and important book and lesson in humanity, and is deeply moving, like deeply, deeply moving. After I finished it, I went and I like talked to my husband, and because he hasn't read Frankenstein, he knows the story generally, but I like explained in detail more about it, and I just started crying because you can't talk about that middle section of this book without crying, and just how relatable that can be. And there were moments with Frankenstein's monster that I felt like I connected to so much, which is not something that I thought was going to happen when I picked this book up, but I think that's the entire point, is you look at this creation, at this monster, at this abomination, according to some POVs of this book, but then you walk away finding yourself like relating to the monster so much. And like, I just, yeah, I think this is brilliant. One of the best books I've ever read. 5 stars, obviously, and yeah, please read this if you haven't. It is amazing. All right, so that is going to be it for my October wrap up. Please let me know down in the comments what was the best book that you read in October, what was your standout moment, or if you wanted to leave an emoji, go ahead and leave the yellow heart. Please make sure that you're following me on all of my social media. My TikTok, my Instagram, and my Goodreads are linked down below. I also have a Patreon. That is where I host my fantasy romance book club. We also do series read-alongs with live shows. I post bonus videos there, and we do reading sprints as well. I really appreciate that you watched today's video. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I love you all so, so much, and I will catch you guys in the next one.